The New York Rangers continue to make moves as they make a sneaky signing, and we also get some comments from Chris Drury on this signing and the plans for the Rangers moving forward after this year's trade deadline. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest, but before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 68% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel, so if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with the New York Rangers, now that the trade deadline is finished and we're pushing towards the playoffs with this new group of players, it's very exciting. It's free. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. But the New York Rangers, I believe, have made a very sneaky good signing here, and they have signed Urho Vaakanainen to a 2-year contract extension, and that was first reported from Vince Mercogliano, and this was just before the NHL's trade deadline. Obviously, they made a move that we talked about in a video earlier, bringing in Abe Cabell. Obviously past the deadline, but it was a move that they put in before the official deadline, and they confirmed it with the league. Now, the AAV for the 2-year contract extension for Urho Vaakanainen is $1.55 million, and I think this is a very good value contract and signing for the New York Rangers for a couple reasons. This is a guy who can play, in your lineup and up and down your lineup right now. Maybe not first pairing minutes, but we know that he can play second pairing and third pairing minutes. And he's been a pretty good defenseman for the Rangers since the trade, right? Since they got him from the Anaheim Ducks in return for Jacob Trouba. He's been a very, serviceable defenseman for the team, and much like Will Borgen, who's come in and kind of surprised, he's not at the same level as Will Borgen, but I wonder what this contract extension is going to do for him mentally and do for his legs. I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do tomorrow's game against the Ottawa Senators at noon. But yes, again, the AAV is $1.55 million, and this is from Forever Blue Shirts. The New York Rangers have signed Urho Vaakanainen to a 2-year contract extension, so he's sticking around. He was also going to be an RFA, so there was some team control there if it did go there, but to the offseason without a contract extension. But you want to avoid arbitration, some of these things, so they got it done beforehand. And just like Borgen and Soucy, they got another season with his contract. So pretty decent job, I think, from Chris Drury retooling the blue line a little bit here. I don't know if Urho Vaakanainen is a difference maker, but they've locked them up to 2 years. Very low risk. They can trade this contract if they want. He can ride it out for 2 years if he wants, if he's playing well. I think it's a very low risk, pretty good contract for the New York Rangers and Chris Drury. And as you can see here, Vaakanainen has played well in the role since he was acquired in early December from the Anaheim Ducks for Jacob Trouba, as we mentioned. And, Vaakanainen has 2 goals, and he only had 1 in 141 NHL games prior to coming to the New York Rangers. And he has 9 points, averaging 15 minutes and 59 seconds time on ice in 30 games with the New York Rangers. And when you take a look at his yearly stats, of course, 10 points in 35 games so far this season. Again, he's averaging a little bit more, 15.39. In terms of ice time. So again, he could be a top 4 guy. I would imagine he's going to be a third pairing guy in a perfect world, especially with some of the moves that the Rangers had made prior to this year's deadline. But he's only 26, 6'2". I think he's a decent option for the Rangers back there on the blue line. I don't think he's made any egregious errors, but he's also not Nick Lidstrom back there on the back end. So, again, I think it's a very decent option for the New York Rangers and very low risk signing. I like the signing, I have to say. And he's also 9th on the Rangers for players who've appeared in at least 20 games, averaging 3.25 block shots per 60 minutes. So he loves to eat pucks as well, putting it on the line. We've seen Matt Rempe do that recently. Will Borgen's obviously doing that. That's going to be a big factor come playoff time as well. And it's still to be determined how the lineup is going to look when Adam Fox returns. For now, Zach Jones has switched to his offside on the right side. He's playing the right with Vaakanainen, and Vaakanainen also did so previously. Soucy is meeting the Rangers in Ottawa tomorrow. It looks like he's going to play in terms of a little update there against the Ottawa Senators in a huge matchup. I mean, the Rangers and the Senators are right there in the standings against each other. Whoever wins this game gets a serious advantage and edge in the standings in that wild card spot. And the Rangers also play the Columbus Blue Jackets. I was going to say Colorado Avalanche. The Columbus Blue Jackets twice this month alone. So real big opportunity for the Rangers heading out of the trade deadline here to get back in the driver's seat in terms of getting that wild card spot and really taking control of their own fate, which I think is really where you want to be in all of this. You don't want to depend on other teams to see how that shakes up. But some other updates in terms of some players that the Rangers went on to acquire. at this year's trade deadline. We didn't know too much about, Carson Soucy other than the video I made when they first acquired him and everything we kind of knew about him from Vancouver. But this is Peter Laviolette speaking out on Carson Soucy, who is going to meet them again, as I mentioned, in Ottawa. He should be playing in tomorrow afternoon's game. He said he's a big left shot D. He can take down some minutes, a lot of experience. He's a good defender, and he really is. He's a good defensive defenseman. I'm excited to see what Carson Soucy is going to be able to do. And I've seen the reaction online, and it's not necessarily positive, but I think Carson Soucy, what he brings to the lineup is something that the Rangers desperately need. And I think that, it's more of that defensive play, things that win championships. The Rangers have Adam Fox, who's great at offense, right? He's a kind of a one-dimensional player to a degree. I think he's a great defenseman and one of the best in the league in Adam Fox. But, pairing him with a guy like Soucy, I wonder if they experiment with that. Maybe you put Miller back on that first pairing too, because Miller and obviously Adam Fox were playing pretty well for a selective period of time there as well. So they can really mix and match, see where they kind of go with, the defense pairings there. Obviously, we have to wait for Adam Fox to come back from injury as well to kind of experiment more with that. So it should be interesting to see how everything shakes up heading into tomorrow's game. But he said he doesn't want to get into where he'll play until he has a chance to talk with them and other defensemen about it. So we'll probably find out closer to game time tomorrow afternoon from Peter Laviolette. And from Johnny Lazarus, the New York Rangers have done a lot to shift the identity of this team. That is for sure. JT Miller's here now, obviously just traded for Nicolas Aube-Kubel, a couple other pieces as well as we went along the trade deadline. And I like that they didn't force anything today at the trade deadline, and I have to agree. They weren't going to be buyers at this year's trade deadline. I don't know if they were going to necessarily be sellers either. I think that they were selective buyers to a degree, like what they needed to kind of plug holes. They did exactly that, and I think that's a good thing. Just kind of to see if they can make the playoffs this year, and then heading towards the future. They didn't add any UFAs or anything. They added players with term, and I think that's pretty exciting for the future. So it's going to be exciting to see what they do down the stretch this season. Obviously, in the offseason, does Chris Kreider stay? Does Mika Zibanejad stay? The identity of the team has changed a little bit, so it's going to be interesting to see down the stretch. But get the most of what you can this season. Figure it out in the summer and go for it again next season. I think that's the sentiment. Retool, reset, go for it again next season. You're going to have a full season of JT Miller as well, and he's been fantastic ever since coming over to the New York Rangers. A couple other updates and moves that the Rangers made today is Chad Ruhwedel has been sent down to the Hartford Wolfpack, and I saw this and I was like, interesting move. Okay, what does this mean? And I completely forgot that the Rangers have like 8 healthy defensemen right now without Adam Fox on the active roster. So clearly sending him down because, he would have been the 8th defenseman. No need for that. Might as well have him playing in Hartford. And you know what? If the Rangers are to make the playoffs, injuries do happen down the stretch. Adam Fox just got injured, right? So to have a guy like this kind of waiting in the weeds with the Hartford Wolfpack is not a bad thing. I think that it's a good option for them. And obviously, he should get into games. It's the same thing with Zach Jones, Brett Berard that we've been talking about on the channel the last couple of months. Don't have these guys sitting in the press box. If you have an opportunity for these guys to play, even if it is with Hartford, have them playing games. Don't have them sitting in the press box. So I know he's a little bit older and, he doesn't have much to learn that way, but just have him ready to go just in case. I think it's a good idea for the New York Rangers. So made some very interesting moves today, along with the trade that we covered in another video. So they signed Urho Vaakanainen to a 2-year contract extension worth $1.55 million. I think it's a low risk, good move for the Rangers. Let me know what you think in the comments about this contract extension. I think it's a no-brainer for the Rangers. Very low risk. They can trade it if they need to. If it works out, that's fantastic as well. I think he has some upside still. Only 26 years old. And we'll see how the lineup shakes up against the Ottawa Senators tomorrow, but it should be exciting to see what the Rangers do down the stretch here heading into the playoffs if they can continue to push for the playoffs. They have to beat Ottawa, and they have to beat Columbus as well. It should be exciting, but let me know what you think in the comments, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.